Hello, good evening, everybody. You're most welcome to today's session. It is 32 minutes past 8 o'clock in Kampala, Uganda. You're welcome from wherever you are joining in. We are so privileged to have an evening like we do have today. This is the 11th session, and we are going to go deeper and deeper. We are so privileged to have men and women of high caliber, including Trevor Waldock and Mr. Martin Kalunga-Banda, whom Trevor will introduce. So type in wherever you are joining in the chat box, say hello to the people. Hello, world. Welcome to this session of Youth Campus Project. Without wasting any more time, let us welcome Trevor Waldock with a virtual hand clap as it takes us forward. Thank you. Trevor, over to you. Bye-bye.
Great. Well, thank you. And thank you, Ivan and the team in Uganda again. You do such a great job for us all to get us started on time and to manage this platform for us all. So thank you so much. So this is week number 11. It means after tonight, we only have one more session. I was in a conversation this week about the Youth Compass Project with a few people. And one of the things people said to me is, and I wonder whether you agree or disagree. They said young people today want a fast answer. And the Youth Compass Project is a slow answer. The Youth Compass Project is something you're going to invest in every day of your life to shape your destiny and to be a contribution to the lives of others. So it's not a quick answer. And we know that. I went to the gymnasium today because somebody said you should strengthen your upper body. So I lifted some weights, but did that make me strong today? Not in one day, no. I have to do it again and again and again. And we don't expect to get results quickly with these things. But there are some things we want to have overnight success, instant fame, instant success. And none of those really develop the heart and character that we need for the future. Every conversation I have with people these days, they're concerned. They're concerned about their country's leaders. They're concerned about their local leaders. They're concerned about their bosses. They're concerned about the behavior of their sons or daughters or their parents. And all of the things that they're concerned about are their heart and their character. That's what it comes down to, because it is the most influential part of our lives. And that is why the famous Greek philosopher Heraclitus says your character is your destiny. You want to know what your destiny will be in life? Look at the investments you're making in your heart and character. And the Youth Compass Project is trying to set out in some small way to influence a generation of young people to aspire to become people of heart and character, people who will become elders in their own lifetime, who will have a big impact on the world around them. And it can happen. I know it can happen. Our special guest next week will be Mara Banda from Malawi, who I will introduce fully a little bit more later. But I ran a project with Mara across the center of Malawi. We called it the Mara Project. And that was in 2010. I was talking with Mara yesterday. I said, how are they all doing? We trained about 120, 140 young people across central Malawi. She said, every one of them, apart from one, is now involved in leadership roles in their community, in their local government. One is now a member of parliament. They are on area development committees. They are on district development committees. She said they are all making an impact. So much so that the leaders around are saying to Mara, do more of this. She said it's like everybody that went through that program went to a special school because of their behavior. Now, that was 2010. We're now 2025. So that's 15 years. So it's not a quick answer, but it's a solid answer. It's an influential answer. It's an answer that's making a difference, not just in the lives of 120 young people, but into the country as a whole. And that's what the Youth Compass Project is seeking to do, is make this investment into the future of your life personally, but through you and as you change, into the lives of many, many people. I used to say to people, you might not be able to change the whole world, but you can change the whole world around you. So tonight we're going to look at another of the challenges from the Youth Compass Project. We're going to look at the challenge of generosity. It's such an important issue. I think it's one of the most important issues. And I am delighted that Martin Kalunga-Banda, who was with us a few weeks ago, has agreed to come back and talk about generosity. And Martin is not here just on behalf of himself tonight. He's on behalf of himself and his wife, who's been thinking this through with him. So, Martin, can I welcome you once more to the Youth Compass Project?
Thank you, Trevor, and good evening, everyone.
Great. It's a joy to, always joy to be with you, Martin. And I always come away enriched by your wisdom every time. Even we spoke yesterday, every time I'm enriched. So, Martin, we're going to take this subject of generosity, and I'd like you over the next half an hour or so to just unpack this with me. So let me start by asking you a question. What do you understand from your life experience by that word generosity?
The term generosity for me traces back to the Indo-European root of gene or gene, which simply means birth. It means to beget. So in that understanding, generosity is an attitude, an action that hopefully gives birth to something new, that which begets a new thing. With that understanding, therefore, Trevor and colleagues in this call, whenever I am thinking about generosity, I'm seeing the opportunity to birth something. It is actually not a loss. If you are generous with time, you give birth to more time. If you are generous with your wisdom, you are giving birth to more wisdom. If you are giving birth to whatever resources you have, this concept tells us it is not picking something, leaving nothing there, and taking somewhere. Literally, it is allowing things to generate, to multiply, to grow. You could pick anything, and you don't have to be religious about it. We human beings require to forgive one another from time to time. As you give birth, as you give forgiveness, you release into your community, into your family, more capacity for forgiveness. As you mentor one person, you are increasing the capacity of mentors, and many people can benefit from that. So that is what, for me, Trevor, are the origins of that. But in terms of other ways of looking at that, It is how nature exists. Nature exists as generosity. That's what we see when a tree which is generously receiving oxygen and carbon dioxide, depending on whether it's day or night, is freely receiving from the atmosphere. It's not transactional. It's freely receiving. And at some point, the tree will shed leaves and the ground receives nutrition. And within the soil, there are microbes and different organisms that are processing things without our doing. We may have planted the seed of groundnuts or pineapple or anything, but we are not responsible for the transactions that are happening, the relationships that are happening in the soil. In the end, we receive the fruit, we receive the leaves that we use for medicine and for food. So the whole of life is a manifestation of generosity.
Very good. Wow. That's amazing. That is so good. Thank you. So the origins, they give birth, and it's how nature exists. So this is a very deep principle, isn't it? Very deep. I remember someone saying to me once, someone was saying, because we sometimes use the phrase, how do you spend your time? And they said, no. How do you invest your time?
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Yeah. Very good. All right. Well, let's just take it a little bit further then.
Yeah.
Because my wife and I were just talking a moment ago about some friends and maybe doing something for them. And I said to her, I said, who do you know who is really generous? And we got into this conversation about generosity, and the examples we were coming up with, I thought, were about charity, not generosity. So I just wonder whether you could just unpack in your own mind, what is the difference between charity and generosity?
That's a tough one, because I am caught between the one understanding when people are referring to institutions that give aid support as charitable organizations. But I'm also thinking of other terms that describe charity not just as pity, as in the deepest of fellow feeling. That charity, when understood as me looking down upon, or not looking down upon, helping the helpless, it takes a negative connotation. But when I understand charity as that inner disposition which leads to action because you can empathize with another human being or another species, then it's different. So the most emphasized meaning tends to be almost interpreted as feeling pity for. That is the one I don't like. The one that comes from deep fellow feeling and identifying with another person, that's the one I would adopt as the meaning of charity.
Yeah, very good. When we spoke recently, I gave an example. So when I was working in Malawi, it was one time when the financial crisis had really hit everybody around the world. And what I noticed is that people that were giving money through charities to support children to go to school, because their money stopped coming in, they were feeling the hardship of the financial crisis. They then stopped giving to these children. And what I saw in Malawi is the children no longer could go to school. And that was when it really first raised in my mind is it seems to me that generosity is a lifestyle. It's built into the center of how you live, whereas it seems to be that charity, it's a bit like the tide. It kind of moves in and moves out. If we have a lot of money, we're prepared to give some of it away. If we feel we've got less money, then we give less away. So then other people are impacted by our charity rather than our generosity. Yeah.
I hear the distinction, Trevor. And that's why I liked the invitation to talk about generosity because of the origins of the term that we talked about earlier.
Yeah, good. I love that.
And that we
Very
human
good.
beings and everything on planet Earth exists as gifted. I can't explain myself into being. I found myself into being. And even for my parents, they didn't go to select which being to birth. They received me as a gift. And even science, as we do genetic modification and engineering, we still don't know what seed and crop in the real terms will come through. And when we tamper with that, we create artificiality because life exists as gifted. Everything around us. In all of us in this call, we have to kill the natural inclination to give birth to something. We find ourselves giving birth. That's why when somebody is in mourning or they lose a job or they don't do well at school, we give commiseration, we empathize. That's giving life to the other person. We do not say, I am glad you failed your exam. I'm really sorry. What can I do to help? What else could support you in this particular instance? You are giving hope to the next person.
Yes.
And when you go into small groups, in this group, your knowledge, experience, the questions you are raising are a gift to that circle. You are breathing life into the circle. So we have to fight hard to kill, to ignore generosity, because that's who we are. But make no mistake about it, we can kill generosity. And after habits of doing that, it starts looking like normal.
Yeah, just talk a little bit more about that. I mean, you've mentioned some about killing generosity, because that's pretty
see it. Let's magnify it. It is happening at my level. It happens at every level, but let's magnify it to leaders, world leaders. When you engage in belittling other people continuously, your system registers this is normal. That's the killing of generosity. You can disagree with me, but I don't have to undress you.
Yeah.
So all of us, when we consistently dehumanize other people in our words, in our actions, in our gaze, we are working towards killing what is natural. The natural inclination to give birth to life, to hope, to energy, to insight, to aspiration.
Yeah, that is very clear, very clear. Thank you for making that so clear. So let me ask another question then, Martin. Why do you think generosity matters? Why is it such an important character quality to being fully human. Now, I think you're touching on some of it around birth, but can you expand on that more? Why does it matter?
It's the most natural currency of life, and a happy life for that matter.
Mm.
We are all here. I will keep on emphasizing that. We are all here as recipients, but also emitters, givers of generosity. So that's the way life goes on. You know, I teach MBA students nearby here, and we are still in the 21st century, drumming into students that the lifeblood of the economy, and some people translate that the lifeblood of life is competition. Absolute nonsense. Yes, competition up to a certain point, but look at most of the things that really matter. They came from cooperation. Underneath that cooperation is generosity.
Yeah,
wanting to give birth mutually. Competition, yes, because you want to sell more tomatoes than the neighbor. But if you over amplify that and don't tap into generosity, it starts becoming predatory, and then you attract enemies around it. Yes, we have to do better all the time. Collaboration has produced more result than competition. Even when we are talking about things, I worked in the oil industry, Trevor. You will not find many oil rigs where one company called Total went there and started drilling. Oil companies actually collaborate to go and pick that thing from the ground and bring it to the surface. And then they can compete when they are selling on the street, but not when they are going to the stores. So all I am saying is it is the lifeblood of a happy society, a happy family, a happy community, a happy place of work.
Wow.
And because generosity doesn't reduce, it multiplies. Like I said, a teacher is generously giving her heart and soul to the 40 students they have in their class. Now multiply that when those people go out with knowledge, with practice, with commitment, with good behavior. Then you birth something larger, and then something more. So you move away from the shortage mentality. I give, I don't become less. I become generous, I remain with more.
Often we talk about the difference between a scarcity mentality and an abundance mentality. So like having a cake, we think if we have a cake, we can only cut it into 10 slices, so only 10 people can have this. And the abundance mentality is, no, let everybody eat. Let everybody eat. But I think it goes with what you're saying. This competitive nature makes us enemies of each other rather than generous to each other.
I will tell you a story. I do serve.
Yes, please do. Yes, please do.
I work with the Global Alliance for Banking on Values. This is a group of banking and financial institutions that have said it doesn't have to be this way. So they are rejecting the dominant notion that most banks play with. And one of these banks is Triodos Bank. Before wind energy became very common and popular, Triodos Bank was a pioneer investor in wind energy. And then business grew. When it was over 5 billion euro, Triodos Bank knew that they couldn't meet demand. So they made an offer to traditional banks. Kindly send your employees. We teach them how to finance and invest in wind energy. In the normal setup, we have this knowledge. So what do? You shield.
Yes. Yes.
But they were looking on something.
Wow.
If we have to move away from fossil fuels, we have to make this knowledge available. So generosity also demands that we are focusing on the right things. So you can't be generous with stolen resources. You can't be generous while destroying the environment. That's a contradiction because you are destroying while wanting to give birth. And that's why Triodos Bank was very clear. How do we increase life on Earth? It's by reducing on fossil fuels. We have found a method for successfully financing wind energy. And we are too small, too few to bring about the change we want at a fast pace. We can be generous with our knowledge and experience and tools. And guess what? They went to competition in the traditional sense because their eyes are cast on something much larger, the well-being of the planet.
Yeah, that's so good. I just want to, I mean, from what you say, I know we hadn't planned to follow this line, but I want to ask you, their eyes were on something much larger. And, yeah, and I want to just get your thoughts on that for a moment, because it troubles me that in a world that increasingly denies that there is anything more than the material or what we can see, it seems like our eyes come down because we have lost connection with something, some being larger than ourselves. So what are your thoughts around that? Just unpack that issue about where their eyes are on something larger.
And again, for me, although I always don't behave that way, I know that my whole journey in life is about being happy. And in the moments that I accumulate material things, I don't experience a significant bump in my happiness.
No.
In the moment that I eat more than my tummy can take, I don't experience increased happiness.
No.
And around that, then, if happiness is part of the driver for what we do things, life tells us generosity is at the core of how we attain happiness. If you give something to someone without expecting in return and nobody else sees, there is a certain kick we get in ourselves. If you talk to a young person who is almost giving up in life, and then 2-3 months later, you get some feedback with a small note, thank you very much, that helped me not to commit suicide or not to give up on my career or on my education. Even if nobody is there, you expect and you experience a lift within yourself.
Yes.
I saw it when I came last time and seeing these young people eager to learn from us, from one another and anywhere else. I slept well. So what I am saying is that, yes, it's nice and right to fight for happiness, but actually material resources alone, when we don't put them in the right order of priority, we lose out. We don't get a bump in our happiness. It's having a right order of things.
Inaweza kuwa ni kule kwa barabara.
Very good. Ivan, can you just check everybody is muted because we're getting sound coming through? Thank you. So yeah, very good, very good. And I think I was listening to someone the other day who's just published another book, and he was doing a book signing for his new book, and a long queue of
Wamesahau.
hello, Peter, could you just check? It sounds like someone is coming through on your phone. Thank you. There was a long queue of people waiting to meet the author of this book. And a young man waited right to the end. So he waited a long time, like an hour and a half to get and he didn't even have a copy of the book to get it signed. And he just stood there. And he said to the author, he said, I stayed. And the author went, what do you mean you stayed? You mean you stayed in the queue? What can I do? Did you want a book or can I? He said, no, he said, because of your last book, I stayed.
Mm.
And what he meant was I didn't commit suicide.
Yeah.
He said, your book was so powerful.
Yeah.
I was on the edge of suicide, but I stayed. And the author, when he told this story, he said, in my whole life, I will take that one story.
Yeah.
His act of giving he said, if just that one life had been saved, he said, that's enough. If that's all I knew my life had done, that's enough.
Yeah. Absolutely. Wow.
So let me ask you another question, Martin. In your life, let's get down to some examples. In your life, when have you experienced generosity at play?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time.
Okay.
When from something as obvious but yet not visible is the fact that my lungs are taking in air and letting out air. I can't tell you I am controlling that. And at one time, one day, one moment, it will switch off. For now, every breath you are hearing is fortuitously coming to me. But slightly more tangible, I am a product of many teachers and mentors. Whether it's in the village where I grew up, that person who screamed at me because they said, it's time to be in school. What are you doing outside? So generosity doesn't prevent us from being tough with one another. It is the intention with which we are being tough that matters. If you want to see me in pain by screaming that I didn't go to school, then that is not generosity. But if you are screaming at me because you are fearful, worried that if I don't complete my education, I won't have the good life that I need to have. At places of work, if you haven't fulfilled your performance contract, I can be tough. But the intention is what makes it generous or not. If my feedback to you is about embarrassing you, showing you who is the boss, that is not generous. If my reprimanding of you and your performance, it's because deep down my heart, I know that you are far much better than the results you are posting. That is called generosity. I have had so many mentors, teachers along the way, but also friends who would go out of their way to create comfort for me, to get information, to see the next opportunity. Hey, Martin, have you seen there is an advert for those who are wanting to go and do their postgraduate studies? I apply, I come to England, I do my postgraduate studies, I go to teach in the university. And in the process, I forget the one who said, hey, Martin, did you see the advert? Now I start talking about the fact that, no, I was in England and I did very well. I got cum laude. And then because I did so well, then I came to teach in the university. That becomes the story. But the birthplace of that story I'm telling is generosity. Someone said, hey, have you seen the advert? And this is something we can all give. That's the beauty about it. None of us is short of generosity. And
very good.
I see it in
it's
my
the
children.
Little thing.
My children, when I get beaten at places of work, I'm tired, I'm demoralized. And then my son or my daughter comes and says, would you like a cup of tea, Dad? And immediately, all these things I carried with me just melt away. I guess all I'm saying, Trevor, is that I'm even unable to pinpoint, because the whole of it, when I am, from the time you told me to watch, to think about generosity, everything around me.
Very good. Thank you. So how do we develop generosity? You've got a room full of young people here. And what will you say to them to help them practically develop generosity in their lives?
First of all, I would even say, allow me to just rephrase the question.
Yeah, please do.
How do we allow generosity to flourish in us? Because it's already sitting there. And from little babies, we started experiencing it. When our mother gave us her breast, when she is cleaning us without knowing who would become, she's not looking at you because you are going to look after her. She is doing it because she loves. Ultimately, that's the hallmark of generosity. Because you love, you want to give birth. So it is in us. So how do we more intentionally cultivate, strengthen those natural inclinations of generosity? It is moments like this, Trevor, when we stop to reflect on a word that we take for granted. But this is not just a word, it is a life force. Once we become aware of what it is, we start noticing those moments. I had a dispute with my classmate, with my co-worker, with my neighbor. Then I stop. What would it mean to be generous in this situation? And quite often it hurts, because generosity will ask you to do the unthinkable. You overreached. You may want to apologize. No, but I will appear as if I'm weak. Generosity won't duck. Look into the issue. Does this ask you to apologize? So generosity, like many of these subtle but important ways of being in the world, they cannot be grown, strengthened simply by intellectual understanding. We have to practice them and practice them and practice them. You can't think yourself to generosity. Each moment when you learn to stop, what would it be like to be generous in this instance? And because it is already in us, you are likely to know the answer. Just practice it. And it's tough. It makes you look weak. It makes you not the tough person you wanted to be. But actually, it's tougher to practice generosity than to be cruel to appear tough in the face of things. You require more muscle to be generous than to be aggressive.
Wow. I'm going to ask you one more question, which is broader than generosity, but includes it. I just want to come back to the subject of elders. My aim, my desire, my ambition with the Youth Campus project was to grow a new generation of elders for the world, because I see there is a great lack in my generation of people who are standing up as elders. So I wanted to invest in the next generation so that they could be ready to stand in the place of elders in communities, in marriages, in workplaces. If I asked you, Martin, how do you think we could encourage young people to play the longer game in their lives of developing heart and character so that they will become elders? I realize it's a big question, but I just would love your thoughts.
Question. Tough question. Here is my attempt. I think partly with my colleagues in here, and I include you in this, Trevor, because you may have had a different birthplace, but at heart, you're an African. We in Africa are fortunate. We have both a long view of the future and a long view of the past.
Yeah, good, very good.
That's why, even if my mother passed on over 27 years ago, I still hear her. In my language, there isn't simply the dead. The closest is the living dead, meaning those who have moved on from this form, but they are living in another form. Yes, call me superstitious, and I teach in Oxford. Everything you can lump on that, I still believe my mother hears me. And there are times when I'm misbehaving and I know that my mom is upset with me. So partly my moral compass connects into distant past. I don't want to displease my ancestors. But I'm also from a village in northern Zambia, which says, if I do things that are selfish now, 200 years after I died, and those who inherited whatever it was from me in the negative and they were worse off, they will curse me. And in my death, I am more miserable. So I have a responsibility to leave something better for future generations, those that will never see me. And once you understand that the opportunity I have for shaping my inevitable past and my inevitable future, which is today, this moment, is now. Today, I can go and draw water. Today, I can help someone. Today, I can teach. Today, I can go and dig in order to grow more crops. Today, I have. So I invest in the distant past and in the distant future through today. That awakening is what qualifies, in my eyes, someone to be an elder. And we need to teach one another what that feels and looks like. Eldership, and I learned also partly from you, Trevor, has nothing to do with age. Yes, when life allows you to see many things, you stand a good chance, but you are not exceptionally or the only one gifted. We have seen young people who have a sense of this stretch of time, distant past, in fact, never-ending past, a never-ending future. I determine what these are going to be because in this moment I'm breathing. I can read. I can do my assignment. I can collaborate with a colleague. We can invest together in this venture. I shape both sides of my life, past and future, by what I do in this moment. That awakening and awareness is the place of eldership.
That is a brilliant, helpful, wise answer. Thank you so much. Now, do you have 2 minutes to hang around or do you need to go?
I can do 2 minutes, Trevor.
All right, very quickly, anybody, have you got a quick question for Martin? Write it in the chat box. If anyone has a very quick question, you need to move quickly because this man, Martin, is on the move. Anybody got a question, write it in the chat box.
They are good listeners, Trevor. They're reflecting on what they are hearing, and I can see in the chat.
They are. They're good.
Wow.
Very good. Okay. Okay, I can't see anybody's questions coming through. Last opportunity for someone to ask Martin a question. All right, nothing's coming through, Martin. Martin, I'm going to let you go because you have been very generous with your time, given everything that is going on around you in your life right now. To give us a second evening on the Youth Compass project with everything, I'm profoundly grateful. Profoundly grateful to you.
Trevor, thank you and your team for these spaces you are creating.
Bless you.
Thank you so much.
All right. And give the group's love to Aggie as well when you see her.
Will do. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks very much, Martin. Have a good evening. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, you were very, very privileged this evening. If you didn't get all of that talk, I will be sending out a recording of the talk in a few days' time. And please listen to that whole interview again because that was solid wisdom. So amazing. And next week, like I say, we have Mara Banda. Mara Banda was, when I first met her, was the president of the National AIDS Council of Malawi. And she has the most amazing story that was shaped by the crisis of HIV/AIDS in Malawi. And I felt very privileged to have met her in my life and to work with her. So that will be next week. I'm just going to see if I can share a couple of slides as way of concluding. I want that one. I want to share that screen. Ivan, can you see my screen shared?
Yes, I can see. Thank you very much.
You can see it. Great. Let's hope it works this week. Now we always have this. So let's just very quickly sum up this issue of generosity. What is at the center of your life? There are three possibilities. One is you put yourself at the center of your life and everything is just there to serve you. That's called a self-centered life. The middle circle, it's still largely self-centered, but round the edge of it, that light brown circle, is what we call charity. Charity is when, if I have a lot of money today, I might give some of it away to someone who needs it. But if I get less money tomorrow, I will give less. And I gave the example earlier on when talking with Martin When people have a lot of money, they might sponsor a child to go to school. But when their income drops for whatever reason or other pressures, they stop giving money to send that child to school. That's charity. Charity moves up and down depending on how comfortable we feel. But the third circle on the right is generosity centered. Generosity centered said, no, my life exists for the benefit of others. How can I give from the gift that I have freely received? How can I do that? Now, some of you may have seen this. I've certainly seen it across Africa, different countries. When you look at the shoes that children wear to school, some of them have got the word Toms written on the back. You may have seen them. I've seen them in Rwanda. I've seen them in Kenya. And I think I've seen them in Malawi, possibly Uganda as well. But that's an organization called TOMS. It stands for Tomorrow's Shoes. When that organization was created, the owner said, for every one pair of shoes that I make to sell in the shop, I'm going to give a pair of shoes to a child somewhere in the world who needs them. 1 for 1. Now that was generosity. And if you look around the walls of Tom's Shoes offices, all of the big posters talk about generosity and living a generous life. And we know it's generosity because most companies wait till they've made a profit and then they start thinking about giving some of it. Well, when Tom started, they started giving from day one. They built it into the very heart of their business model, 1 for 1. And we can do that in a simple way. Let's say you have a chicken and you're raising money for your family through selling eggs. Well, generosity would be for every 1 egg I sell, I give 1 egg away. That would be an act of generosity. So these are 3 different possible centers for our lives. And there are many dimensions of generosity. Let me just go through them quickly. We can be generous with our time. And part of you can be generous with your time by listening to someone. Generous listening. I remember talking with people and I start talking to them and their mobile phone rings and they say, oh, I'm sorry, I've got to take this call. And the call keeps getting interrupted. And what it leaves me feeling is that this phone is far more important than me. They are not being generous with their time in listening. So we can be generous with our time, helping people, listening to people. We can be generous with our money. We can be generous with our possessions. We can be generous with any of our resources. We can be generous with our talents. How can we give our talents? Whatever your talent might be, how do you give it so that someone else will benefit from it? You can be generous with your networks and contacts. Every time you meet someone who's got a question, try and introduce them to someone else who can be helpful. Always be thinking generously about how to help other people grow their networks and contacts. You can be generous in serving others. You can be generous in supporting others. You can be generous in mentoring young people. And we talk about generous of spirit, which means your attitude to life is my life's a gift and I want to give it to others. Or we could be generous of heart, which is our whole attitude towards others. The big question that generosity asks of each of us is who or what is my life in service of? What is the focus of my life's energy and attention? Because if it's all on me, if it's all on I've got to make money, rather than generosity and serving, then we will not grow a generous life. But if we see it in service of others, as Martin brilliantly explained, we will look for all the little opportunities to be generous today. So even when this call finishes, just be awake to the people around you and ask yourself, is there an act of generosity I could make to them this evening? And again, tomorrow, be awake. A very simple little exercise you can do. This is in challenge number 22 of the Youth Compass Project. So I'm just picking out one of the challenges in the generosity challenge. And I've said, where can I be generous? You can be generous at family, school or college, in your community, in your workplace or other places. Here's my challenge. Write down those headings and then say, just write down the name of one person in your family, one person at college, one person in your community, and one person at work. Just write down their names. And then when you've done that, ask yourself, what? What can I do that would be an act of generosity for that person? What could I do? And it might be as simple as ask them, do you need anything? Is it something I could help you with? Does your children need anything? Do they need help with their homework? What could I do? So very simple exercise to begin the practice of building generosity. So what benefits of generosity? It builds trust with other people. It gives them a taste of love. And in doing that, you will notice it builds your own self-worth. Did you notice what Martin said when he was with you a few weeks ago? He so appreciated being with you and spending time with you. He said, I slept well that night, he said. I slept well. In other words, it left him with a good feeling about himself that he'd been able to serve you a few weeks ago. So that's what it does. Let's come out of this. So we're going to stop there. Tonight is the end of week number 11 of the Youth Compass Project Masterclass. Next week is the last one. So I need you to do some thinking for me. First of all, how can you get here on time next week? Because I will start interviewing Mara Banda at hour, right at the beginning. So please don't come late. Please do everything you can to get there early. Number 2, see if you can get some other people to come along. This lady's life story is amazing. Amazing. So get there early and get some other people to come along. Like Patrick has done over a few weeks, get a bunch of people in a room, get your mobile phone in front of the group or whatever you need to do so that the group can hear this interview. And then the last thing I want you to do before next week is start thinking about, what do you think you need next? Because this masterclass is finishing next week, but the Youth Compass project is only just beginning. What do you need in order to start doing the Youth Compass project for yourself and start telling more and more people, supporting and encouraging more and more young people to start doing the Youth Compass project? So that's what we want to do. And we are going to stop there right on time. Once again, I want to thank Ivan and the team in Uganda. I cannot thank them highly enough for their service to all of us faithfully over the past 11 weeks. I look forward to seeing you all next Wednesday evening for session number 12. Have a great evening. Bye-bye.